Censoring the facts turns our children into idiots. They claim it's for our safety. I'll tell you what it really is. Removing information that empowers all the citizens. The truth doesn't damage points of view that are legitimate. They're trying to change amen to amen and...
Welcome. Oh. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Stuck my mic over here and I forgot to pull it over and reactivate it. There we go. That's much better. Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Dion's Daily Dose. I knew I was forgetting something. When I set this up, I'm like, you know, something feels wrong. And it was this. All good, though. Thank you for joining me. So tonight we're going to have an opportunity for you to meet and talk to Sean Fagan. He is the Republican candidate for prosecutor for LaPorte County. Now, this is an incredibly important position. We're going to pop him on and let him talk to us, and you'll have an opportunity to ask him the questions that matter to you. This is a highly contentious race. There's a lot of things being tossed around out there. So it's a critically important position for the county. It's huge. So without further ado, we're gonna drag him on here. Now, this is not an intro to Sean. If you want that, I did a video before where we met Sean. We talked to him about his background and stuff like that. But this is focused on the prosecutor race. Why should we vote for Sean? So that's kind of what we're doing. It's less backgroundy, I guess, and more why, you know, how has he earned your vote? Is it just me or is my hair? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, thanks. Here we go. There we go. Sean, thanks for joining us, man. We greatly appreciate it. Say hi to everybody out there.
Hi, everyone.
Excellent. So we have heard a lot of things from the current, you know, incumbent for this position, that crime's not going up and that experience matters. Now, I'd just like to say there's a lot of undecided voters out there. I've had them ask me for my opinion, and I, as always, right before the election, here in probably the next week, I'm going to be doing a video where I introduce the candidates, everything I've been able to learn about them, and, you know, my choices. But remember, I would never tell you how to vote. I guess the question on most people's minds that have reached out to me is, so the current prosecutor has years of experience as a trial attorney. They have years of experience as prosecutors since they, you know, won the previous election. How can you, who have not been a prosecutor, do better than him? What sort of experience do you have that would make you a better choice for prosecutor?
Well, you know, I've always said that he has more years of being an attorney than I do, because it's just simple math. And I've only been an attorney since 2015, 7 years. I'm going into my 8th year of practice. He's been practicing law since 1991, 92. And so I mean, he's older than me. He's like 13, 14 years older than me. I'm 43. And so there's just the simple fact of biology that he's older, and so he's going to have more experience. Now, where it comes down to where the rubber meets the road is how you define meaningful quality experience. So I see it as qualitative versus quantitative. Yes, he has more quantitative, more years of experience as an attorney. Simple math. Qualitative,
right. No one
though,
argues with that.
I believe I have something that certain life and vocational experiences, qualitative experience that he will never have versus my background versus his background. So I think that's one of the main differences between me and him, where I offer my admittedly unique background and his more staid, traditional, vanilla legal experience.
Okay. All right. So quality versus quantity, and we have life experience versus lawyer experience. Okay. So what sort of things have you done in your life that can translate to a better outcome in the prosecutor's office, for example?
I've actually lived real life. I think
Okay.
that's the difference. No. So, I mean, let's talk about you for a minute. Can you hear me okay?
No, I can hear you fine. My dog is trapped in my bedroom, so
Oh,
he's over here scratching. I hear thud 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 thud. I'm like, what is that? You
I
continue.
have,
I'll be right back. I gotta let him out.
okay. So,
Come on.
I living, I have a dog myself. I call him boy dog because he's a boy dog. He's not very bright, unfortunately, but I always find, if I'm talking to the camera, I feel like I'm talking to myself, and then it's just a monologue, and I might as well just be Hamlet on the stage, to be or not to be the prosecutor or not to be the prosecutor.
Right.
That is the question for the voters. So I always enjoy these live conversations, talking one on one. I feel the it's better for for those who it's better for me, it's better for you, it's better for
Right.
the audience. So anyway, the question was, what's distinguishing, what's kind of more the meat and details of my background. So
Right.
uh, I said I lived a real life, and admittedly I have a very differentiated background. So most people, uh, I think my opponent has gone on the traditional career, graduated high school, went on to college, went to law school right after, boom, 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 and then started a law practice, got married at an early age right out of law school. So, and then he did the whole traditional uh, life, what you would consider middle class values,
Right. Right.
as it were. Me, I did not go straight out of college or straight out of high school to college. Actually, I was hoping to join the Army because I did ROTC, and was in what's called the early commissioning program,
Okay.
and was going to be an Army officer on a fast track. Because when I was in high school, I was a science nerd, still am, and so that didn't quite work out for me. I had a serious disagreement with my parents about that, so I honored their wishes, and then I moved to Florida and lived in Florida. 18, just living it up, and then excuse me, and then just came back to my neck of the woods from the home and got a job doing radio. Uh, doing as a radio DJ. I remember going in. All I had to do was read the news, and I read the news. I read a news story, and then the guy's like, my boss, Dennis, he, great guy. He said, "You're hired." I'm like, okay, but radio traditionally doesn't pay well, and so I
Right.
worked on the weekends at a plant. I worked manufacturing. I'd work radio at night, and then on the weekends I would work in a plant 30, 40 hours, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And
Okay.
then
What did you
during the
make?
week,
What did they make?
I worked in a jeans factory. I'm at,
Oh.
my opponent has all these union endorsements, but out of us, I'm the only one who is actually in a union, textile manufacturers union. So, or textile workers.
Okay.
So, and
That's cool.
then, and doing that, and then went to, was carrying a full class load at the local community college. And so, most people working, and then studying. And I did pretty well until I got laid off from, all the NAFTA at the time, just kind of sent all these jobs down to Mexico. And then they all got 10, 15 years later sent over to China. So,
Right.
and I also sold insurance. I also did welding. I'm a trained welder, done that professionally. Radio, and then used to do pastoral ministry, and then drug and alcohol stuff, and then was on a PhD track for religious studies. And then we all know the story. after that, my mentor said, go to law school. So I did. And that's why I'm here. So I'm not from Indiana. I'm from North Carolina. But my wife's from Westville. She's been there 30, 40 years. Her dad and family's all steel workers. So he was in a union, did that 40 plus years. So, having my and then knowing good pastoral mentors, people who were regular salt to the earth. That's kind of where I come from. Regular salt to the earth, farmers, people who grew up in farming back when you could make a living from it, back in the 40s and 50s and early 60s in North Carolina. And then they were, I've always been a Republican. I was a Republican when I turned 18 and been so for the last 25 years. Never wavered in my party affiliation, unlike some others in this race. But that's another story.
So let's talk about that. What does being Republican mean to you? Because there's a lot of comments out there, and I could say what it means to me, but to you, especially right now, what does the word Republican denote for you?
It means defending the Constitution for the ordinary guy, because that's, the Republican Party used to be the party of money, the party of rich Wall Street. And the Republican Party used to be called the Episcopal Church at Prayer. But that's no longer, since Reagan and some other people, that description has changed. The Democrats are actually the party of Wall Street now, and you're finding that over the last 10 years that the Republican Party has shifted to more what the Democrats used to be, which is working class, regular folks, the masses, if you were, versus the elite. And so for me, having my own background, what's in it for the little guy? What's in it? I didn't come from money, and I grew up poor. Me and my brother grew up near Atlanta, only two white kids on an all black street. So having, when I went to New York for seminary, people they were way more racist than anything you could dream of in the South, any bad stories. It's just weird. It's just different. So treating people normally, treating people with respect, treating people with dignity, and then realizing that we're all Americans and we're all the same. No matter if you went to a fancy school, you grew up poor, you grew up rich, you made something of yourself or whatever, whether you're highly educated, uneducated, we're all the same under the law. And being all this, that's what being Republican means to me. It's the Constitution makes us all equal. And that's kind of informed. That was bolstered, I kind of had that philosophy, your political ideology philosophy changes as you get older. You kind of mellow out, or you grow more focus on one thing or another. But
people
when
tend to grow more conservative with age.
Yeah, but and even more treating people, everybody is equal. No respect. You're a respecter of persons, but they're all equal. So when like in the 12 steps, when I used to do drug and alcohol counseling and working people in the program in NA and AA, when you're all the same. No one is better. The only people who are better, not even that works, is in the people who have gone through the 12 steps, completed it, and are working on their sobriety and have maintained it for a long time, because they will ignite, if it's wisdom, it's growing in wisdom. And that's what I like about Republicanism. Or me being as a Republican, as I've gotten older as a Republican, I hope to think that I've grown wiser in just realizing that everybody, people put on fronts, people put on facades. We're all the same, and we're all going through our problems. So, and one of the things that I think, like in the criminal justice system, if you treat people with respect, then you may send them to prison or to jail for a long time. But if you treat people with respect, regardless of who they are or their crime, no matter how heinous it is, I think you're gonna win out in the long term, because people appreciate being respected. Because no matter who you are and what you're a defendant in, or if you're convicted or criminal, you're still a person. You're still, just because there's always redemption. There's always the power to change. So you should always,
Right.
you never know where that person's going to end up. And so you don't use people. You try not to see them as discardable. You see people as it were, God created human beings made in the likeness and image of the God of their understanding, and worthy of respect. And
Right.
that's what
Right.
republicanism, being a Republican, means to me. Everybody is equal, but especially under the law.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So you mentioned, substance abuse counseling. Some of the people watching may or may not know this. My mom actually struggled. My mom and dad actually struggled with substance abuse for my entire life. Excuse me. So it's a special area for me. I watched my mom struggle with it for years and years growing up. She was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and she had her periods of sobriety when she'd go and attend the program, and things went well, and she'd get into recovery, and then unfortunately she'd relapse, and then things would get horrible again. As someone with the experience that you have in that area, how can you bring a different perspective to the legal system in regards to people who offend because of substance abuse? In other words, I understand that you have a little bit different view of it than a strictly legal prosecutor. You've dealt with these people firsthand. You know that many times it isn't a desire to break the law, but rather substance addiction that causes them to do the things that they do. How does your experience affect the way that you deal with that?
I view it as the balance. My understanding of it is the balance of justice and mercy. Sometimes justice can be mercy, and sometimes just mercy can be justice, but it can also be unjust and unmerciful. So it's all about finding the right. If okay, let's talk people who work the program. A sponsor.
Okay.
Some people work well, have that certain match. They find that right sponsor and they just click and it works, and you develop that relationship and you achieve sobriety. Some other people, it just doesn't work. And that's the same way with in its personality, or a bunch of things. That person's not ready. A lot of
Right.
things can affect your journey towards sobriety. So,
Right.
and in with if you view every criminal who has a drug problem or an alcohol problem as a nail, and you have a certain kind of experience, you're going to just view it as the hammer of justice, and you're going to hit the nail, but you're you're not able to use that nail again. You got to be able, okay, maybe this nail goes over here. Maybe I don't need to use the hammer quite yet. Maybe I need to do this, or this person would benefit from this program. The problem is, in LaPorte County, we don't really have physical infrastructure to deal with our widespread problem of
Okay.
drug and alcohol abuse in this county, because, as you know and I'm aware, drug overdoses, according from fentanyl and all that, it's a border problem, it's a policy problem, and a lot of it deals with some of the things that you have to that affects you. So I think I lost you. Are you still there? Well, I'll just continue until Dion gets back. So you're frozen up there, Dion. So anyway, not everything is a nail. Not everything requires a hammer. It just, you have to be flexible like a reed in the wind. You got to know what works, what doesn't. And so how does that, from my experience, come to the prosecutor's office? My experience of discernment and knowing the path to sobriety, how you can make it work, how it doesn't work, I can teach that and set policy for the office. And that will sometimes come out in general ways, but sometimes it can be specific, because not every, my management philosophy, and it really does have to do with management philosophy. My management philosophy is situational. So there will always be times when I don't need to intervene or act directly within a case. Sometimes I'll just have to step in or not step in, and it will vary by the situation. And having that experience, that practical experience, has made me a good judge of character. And so I have a good gut feeling and good intellectual understanding of what's required to achieve sobriety and how to deal with those people to achieve success, because that's really what we're all trying to do with the criminal justice system. We're trying to deliver positive outcomes. The justice system is not about retribution or revenge. It's about rehabilitation. Now, not everyone's going to be rehabilitated. Some people have positive outcomes, some don't. But if you maintain the course, both as an office and with offenders, I think you'll achieve positive outcomes. Seem to have lost Dion anyway, but a lot of the things that people want to know from me are kind of how I'm going to deal with increased crime. But I want to wait till Dion gets back on here before we do anything else. So I'm just going to take a minute. I'm going to wait for him to come back, and then we're going to get more into your questions. So, oh, wait, he's back. You're back. This happened last time. It's like,
yeah, I do have some kind of EMP field or something around you, because I swear I have technical problems every time you're on the show. I apologize, viewers, ladies and gentlemen. I had some sort of technical issue that caused my computer to spontaneously reboot, apparently. So I do apologize for that. Hopefully you kept our guests entertained while I was gone.
I think I was starting to lose them with, I wanted to wait till you got back. I'm drinking my ginger ale, and I wanted to wait until you got back, because I really like your questions and interacting with you, instead of, like I said earlier, monologuing, soliloquy,
Right.
doing the whole Hamlet thing.
Yeah, I get it. So Liz says that you kept it going and you did well. So good. So I don't know if I don't know what ended up. I'll review the stream later and get it. But one of the things that I found, especially I'm running for state representative for District 9. For those, some may know it, some may not. But one of the things that I found is absolutely critical. As I'm watching races across the country and various politicians and candidates vying for office, one of the things that I found that is kind of the most telling is the life experience that people bring to various roles. So career politicians, we know what they offer. We know, what they've done. We can look at their accomplishments as bills, or as working with the other side, or the things that they do. We can look back at their legislative history or whatever, and we can say, oh yeah, this guy or gal did good. They worked with the other side. They passed this legislation, that legislation. But many times when we have a new candidate, someone new to the political landscape, We don't have that to look at. We can't say, yeah, this person did this. All we can do is kind of cross our fingers, which is why incumbents get elected, I think, over 90% of the time. So the big thing that I found is we have to look at the personal experience of those running and kind of tell people, okay, so because, for example, as a truck driver, which I was a truck driver for about a decade, I've been to 48 states. So I know a lot about that, about trucking, about more than the average person. Do I know as much as someone who, is an owner operator and did that for 40 years? Of course not. I wouldn't pretend to. But what I do know is, as a regular person versus a career politician, we all have certain things that we've done in our life that we can bring to the table in the position that we're applying for. So the thing is in politics, being, getting elected is like a job interview. You have to tell the voters, well, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to change. And so Liz has a question. What about overseeing APS and victim advocacy? So one of the aspects of the prosecutor's office is the overseeing of adult protective services, which I'm just going to say this, anyone in LaPorte County who has dealt with APS knows that there is room for improvement there. They are kind of without teeth, at least in this area. They don't have a lot of power behind them to actually make the changes that need to be done. I'm sure there are hard-working folks there. I don't know them personally. But what could you do, for example, to improve APS and victim advocacy in the area? Would it just be about funding? Would it be about providing the fangs to these people and going, if you can find the evidence, I will definitely charge it? What's the solution here?
I think it all comes down to, like we were talking earlier, it's that one-on-one connection, because it's like a mentor in someone you're mentoring, or sponsor and a sponsee, where if you're with one person, there are politicians or political candidates that I talk with, and I have no chemistry with that person. But like with you and some other folks, I have great chemistry and we get along. And that's kind of like with me and Ron Heath. Me and Ron, we get along pretty well. And so it all comes down to that personal level. I get along with most people. I get along with most people. One of my best friends, one of the smartest guys I know, one of the people that I respect the most, just for how awesome he is. He's a black fella named Edgar. He has a PhD in early church history, and he knows Greek, he knows Latin. He's brilliant. Knows how to read these languages. I struggle with Latin. I'm decent with Greek. My German and Spanish aren't that great, but this man is brilliant. He's very humble, and he's a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
And as a Jehovah's Witness, he and I disagree on fundamentally everything about religion, because we're both within Christianity. I believe in our fundamentals are way off from each other. But because he and I get along so well, we respect each other, and we have that connection, we built a very long-standing, fruitful relationship. I mean, he knows where I come from, I know where he comes from, and even though we severely disagree, we're still good friends. In law school, my next door neighbor was from North Carolina. He grew up just not too far from where I where I grew up, and he was about 10 years younger than me, but he was also Muslim. But we got along great, and
Okay.
because we had that respect, he knew where I was coming from, and I knew where he was coming from, and like we said, we totally disagreed, but we're both from North Carolina. It's like there are some things that just, we had that in common. We both grew up, we're mountain boys, and so we just got along so well. And that's one of the things that I think any office functions well on is having the right people who can cater to the broadest audience. It's like television. You want television or comedy. Jay Leno, a lot of comics think he's boring, but he does very well. He did very well on the Tonight Show. He does very well in his stand-up gigs because he appeals to a broad audience, whereas you
Right.
have shock comics or obscenity comics or whatever kind of comedians. I like this person, that person, whatever. That's the kind of people, broad general experience that can relate to broad problems and broad personalities. Different personalities, you deal with different personalities best if you have diverse life experience. Because, when I did pastoral ministry, got along, had to deal with a lot of different socioeconomic class, a lot of different political things, different races, just had to educational backgrounds. You have to be able to deal with different people, evolve to deal with different situations, because that's how you do how you're most effective. So it's always about people and how they relate to other people. Now, are there people in the office who are great? Yeah, there are always people in an office who are great. Are there people who are terrible at their jobs? In every office you ever work, or any place you work, there are those people that just stink at their job.
Right.
But some of those people who stink at their job can deal with people who some of the great employees at, and vice versa. So it's all about what bang for your buck can you get within the office. And for APS, um, it's a complicated issue because they have to deal with a state agency. They give them a set amount of money, and then it kind of stays the same. And so it's based on a contract basis. The prosecutor doesn't necessarily need to deal with APS to provide those services. In LaPorte County, some other prosecutor's office can take it. It's just
Okay.
depending, because it's going to need more money, and because it's state government, you only get so much. So the funding on that one is complicated, and whatever you can supplement from the county will go a long way to dealing with retaining and hiring the best people. So APS is a discretionary thing for a prosecutor's office, but every prosecutor's office deals with three main things: victim advocates, four victim advocates, diversion, pretrial stuff, where you deal with your diversions and dismissals and deferments, 4D, which is your child support main thing, and then trial division, where they deal with the bulk of it's your bread and butter
Okay.
of prosecution.
Right. So one of the things that I've heard, and Liz has personal experience with this, the child support division in LaPorte County, there's room for improvement. I'm not going to bash anyone who works there. There are some great people working in the child support division, but overall, I have heard from a number of people, my wife being one of them, that there is definitive room for improvement there. How would you, and she asked the question, how would you improve the child support system?
Well, one of the great thing is two great things. So I previously worked for DCS Child Services, and have
Okay.
that knowledge of the world. But DCS is limited because it deals primarily with abuse and neglect. And one of the problems that you have in DCS child welfare is parenting, because a lot of your cases deal with other issues like parenting, parenting time, custody, child support. And so DCS doesn't have, it has a broad mandate in dealing with child welfare, abuse, and neglect, but it doesn't go all the way
Okay.
for establishing some of those other issues. Courts don't really like to touch that. So that's partly why I went over to another county and got a job in a prosecutor's office as a deputy prosecutor working in child support, because I knew that because conversations that I've had, not you, but with other people regarding child support and just, room for improvement, not knocking them, because I may be their boss. So I want them to, you're the best employees ever. But no, there's always room for improvement in office. So for me, I left DCS and went to go work for 4D office, child support, because that truly, to me, is one thing that you can have the most impact. Because for me, personally, you were talking about your parents earlier. Believe me, I understand. My father was a non-custodial parent. Hardly ever. I think I saw him 5 times in my whole life after my parents divorced when I was 3, and so and he didn't pay child support, and it would have been really helpful when I was growing up to have that extra income. But he was hobbled by drugs, chronic unemployment, and some other things. So for me, it's somewhat personal, because I've dealt personally with the effects of fathers, and it's not just fathers, it's both parents, of my own father not not doing what he was supposed to do, which is support his children. And so you may see my kids are up here, eldest, youngest. And so for me, it gets personal. I want the experience so that I can help those who are going through the experience that I had. Because if my mom lived in Indiana, it would have been a whole lot easier to get child support for me and my brother when I was younger. So it's with inflation going up and with costs going up, and there are jobs, if you look, they may not be the best jobs, but if you have a duty, you have a legal obligation and a moral obligation to support your kids, whether you're married or not, whether you live with the mother or the father, whatever, you have a duty to support your kids. And so that's one of the ways, because more stable families helps create an atmosphere of lower crime, and less crime. There's only so much the prosecutor's office can do to improve overall society, but the role it has, public safety, is a huge thing. One of those is funneling money from non-custodial parent to the custodial parent in terms of child support, and holding them accountable, because it stable families creates better social networks, and it just lowers crime overall.
Right. We've seen it's no secret that single parent homes, the children from single parent homes have higher crime rates. They have higher dropout rates. They have overall, obviously, it's better to come from a 2-parent home. But if not, because let's face it, marriages end, relationships end. Sometimes it's more toxic to stay together. In this case, it's important for the finances to be there so that one person can provide a better life for the child or children. I'm glad you mentioned crime, because that's kind of where I want to steer it. There's a big misunderstanding as to what the prosecutor can and cannot do as far as affecting the crime rate. I live in Michigan City, Indiana, which I've lived here for many, many years. And there's anecdotal evidence, but there's also published evidence that in general, the crime has steadily gone up in Michigan City. We're hearing more gunshots. We're hearing more instances of crimes, things like that. And there are those that say, well, the prosecutor has no effect on the crime rate. I personally beg to differ. I ask people to look at certain areas of the country where, let's just say they're soft on crime. So I'm going to ask you directly, as someone running for the prosecutor's office, what can the prosecutor's office do in relation to crime? How can they make it go up, and how can they make it go down?
Well, you make it go up by not in prosecuting cases and not having a good relationship with police. I mean, take for instance Indianapolis. There's a huge battle between Cindy Carrasco and Ryan Mears, and the FOP down there just came out and endorsed, just straight up endorsed Cindy Carrasco because Mears is not prosecuting crimes. He says he wants to focus on more serious crimes, but serious and lesser offenses are both the same. Now the application where it where the rubber hits the road is how do you deal with your repeat offenders? Because
there you go.
Most people are when they ever have an encounter with the justice system, criminal justice, it's temporary. It's fleeting.
It's an isolated incident.
And it's with your career. I don't like to say career, but your more habitual, steady offenders who
the ones they call frequent flyers.
Yeah, frequent flyers, if you will. So those people are the bread and butter of any criminal justice system. So it's how you deal with those persons that affects the kind of tone that police get from you. Because in other counties, people are candidates and incumbents and candidates alike are saying the prosecutor, two things. Prosecutor is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. Two, the prosecutor sets the tone for police. So if you have an aggressive prosecutor who seriously deals with crime, who doesn't offer friendly terms, good plea deals are part of the system. So let's just bracket that out. Just assume it to be true. Those who are more aggressive in sentencing, in pursuing charges, more aggressive against in plea agreements, and those kinds of things, that sets a tone for everybody else. So they look to the prosecutor for guidance, even though yes, they are two different functions. One is cop on beat work. The other is court work. The prosecutor sets the tone for how police will do their job.
Right. So if the prosecutor's office aggressively goes after offenders, and like you stated, we're not talking about the one-offs. We're not talking about the people who make a mistake and have a single instance with the Justice Department or the criminal justice system, I should say. And okay, you made a mistake. Great. Let's figure that out and move on. The vast majority of those end up in some sort of prearranged, do this, do that. We'll sign off on it, make it happen. We're talking about frequent flyers, people who are consistently breaking the law, people who are consistently reappearing in the criminal justice system because the recidivism, because their lifestyle, whatever. You have to aggressively go after these people to ensure that the communities remain safe, right? You got to keep these people locked up because otherwise they're going to continue to reoffend. We've all read stories. We've all seen people who were out on probation or out on parole and they hurt someone. These are the kinds of people that we want to keep locked up because they have to be, because they cannot function in a modern, reasonable society, right?
Those are the kinds of people who in 12 steps just won't admit that they have a problem.
Right, exactly. So I think you did a pretty good job of explaining how the prosecutor can affect the crime level. And unfortunately, here in Michigan City, we see it. We see it going up. We hear rumors of things, which I can't say because I don't want to get sued. But listen to your neighbors. They tell you what's going on. That's all I can say. It's not like I have direct evidence that I can present you yet anyway, to show why we need a change. But ultimately, you have to make the decision for yourself as to what sort of society you want to live in, what sort of people you want running things in LaPorte County. I know that currently there is a lawsuit against the city of Michigan City from the incumbent, and I don't know all the particulars about it, but I myself not a fan of people who sue my city. It is what it is. I don't expect you to comment on that, nor should you, but I do expect that if elected, you will do the best job that you possibly can. And more importantly, you bring interesting experience to the table, because one thing that I've seen, and this everybody backs up, we've seen a massive increase in drug overdose cases, in crimes directly relating to either substance abuse, drug crimes, for lack of a better term, not just the people who use, but the people who smuggle it, the people who manufacture it, the people who use this county as a corridor, because we're having record seizures of drugs that come up from the southern border, that come from other areas of the country. And being the crossroads of the crossroads of America, Indiana is a hub of transportation. We have the trains, we have multiple interstates that converge right by us. 8094 is a major corridor, 65 is a major corridor, and they're just look at State Police Lowell. They're constantly posting about how they pulled over this car and there were multiple pounds of fentanyl, pounds of cocaine, pounds of heroin that were seized. And these are just the ones they catch. These are the people who sped just a little bit or didn't use a turn signal or whatever. Personally, I don't understand how anybody can transport that much and not obey every single traffic law. Like, come on. But let's face it, they're not hiring the most intelligent people, because they're transporting, these items. I don't care about cannabis. That's a whole other issue for legislatures to deal with. But things like heroin, things like fentanyl, especially, those are dangerous. Those are killing people. And I believe that your unique experience with dealing with people who have substance abuse problems, with dealing with people who have had a history with these sorts of things, I believe it puts you into a unique perspective in your ability to prosecute, but more importantly, your ability to interact with the people and to figure out the best things for them. Because sending them to prison isn't always the best option, is it?
No, because it's not like prison is easy. But that's one of the enigmas of our county. It's been said a lot of places, the jail, number one provider of mental health services in the county. We just don't have the facilities, the physical locations in order to detox fit people and to focus and concentrate if they have a serious drug problem. So, but the jail, that's not a good, honestly, the jail is to house criminals, people who are being served on warrants, or you're more, because there's work release and there's other programs, so they don't have to be in the jail. But the jail is a criminal justice function, it's not a hospital.
It's not a mental hospital. It's a prison facility. Yeah.
But the great thing about prison is that if like they say, if you work it, it works.
Mhm.
So the prisons like Westville and not so much Indiana State, but let's just focus on Westville. Some of these medium security, lower level security places, they offer you counseling and programs and things you can do if you have a
Right.
serious addiction or alcohol problem, where if you work the program, you can
Mhm.
not only achieve sobriety, you can also earn credits toward an early release. And
Right.
so those kinds of and it really helps toward rehabilitation. Now, my own personal feeling, so you're asking me what am I gonna do? My own inclination is that people who have a problem and it's their first encounter, real encounter with criminal justice, with the legal system, work a program, mandatory. It's going to get diversion or deferral. You work a program and you achieve sobriety. You work the steps. This case gets dismissed. If you
Right.
go up, if there are more, if I have to see you more and more, then the stick, less carrot, more stick. And
Right.
so,
Right. And I think
because
I
if
think people I think people need to understand that the prosecutor's office has extreme latitude about what they can do, how they can prosecute a case, how ardently they go after it versus uh, what sort of deals they can offer. And I hate to use the word deal, but basically, so you get arrested for a drug offense, right? The prosecutor's office can decide, well, we're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. It's a level whatever felony for possessing this small amount of cannabis, so we're going after that. We're going to hammer that hard. It's your first offense, whatever. We don't care. We're throwing the book at them. Versus, well, it's their first offense. There are drug counseling programs available. There are outpatient programs available. There are resources that we can guide them towards so that they can leave that alone, right? So that they can do better in the future. And it's not just cannabis. We're talking about, all controlled substances here, but there are resources that the prosecutor's office has access to and has knowledge of. It's not like they can go, well, you're going to do this, but they can say, rather than being charged with this, we can give you the opportunity to go do this instead. And a lot of people don't really think about that. They just think, well, the prosecutor's office, they stand in front of a judge and they argue the case, and that's the entirety of what they do. The prosecutor's office controls a vast amount of the criminal justice system at the county level. Would you agree with that?
I would, and one of the, well, I mean, it offering mercy, say to use the drug example,
Mhm.
offering mercy at the outset for low, gradations has a practical effect of keeping people out of the system. One of the ironies is the less, because we have less police, we're unable to fully have the evidence we need in order to aggressively prosecute cases. But
Right.
if you file more cases with less police and requiring more evidence, that backlogs the system. So and that denies people their constitutional rights and it delays justice. So and then that's where you have more plea deals where you're more lenient. You just, okay, I just want to get this case through. So
Right.
in some ways you want to throttle back based on, okay, we have less police, we're going to need more police anyway. That's a serious problem in our county. People have been talking about it for the last year, about we need to
Right.
pay
Right.
our law enforcement more. But one of the practical realities of not having more police is that less cases are getting filed, and so a lot of things slip through the cracks. um, on a, you don't catch all the bad guys, as it were. You don't catch all the offenses, and so less eyes on the ground, less boots on the ground, less
Mhm.
cases you can bring. But on the other hand, those cases that you do have, you can focus more attention on them. and
Okay, so one thing I
get
think
into
that
the details.
one thing that I
Go ahead.
think people should understand, and I was actually shocked about this. The reason that there are so many plea deals, right, is because if every single person took their case to trial, it would absolutely cripple the criminal justice system. Cripple. There is absolutely no way that we can prosecute every case out there in a full court hearing. That's why there are so many plea agreements, and kind of go in front of the judge. Yeah, we both agree on this. Boom, gavel struck. Get them out of here. And whether that's right or wrong, that's just the way it is. And I think you're referring to, if we can actually effectively go after the most cases, that would then kind of reduce the number of cases that need to be filed in order to just file something, right?
Yeah, I'm not. One of the things my opponent likes to talk about is, well, the previous guy back in from 2014, 2018, his opponent back then, he didn't file enough cases. Well, while crime was going up. Well, in some ways, he had some merit to it, but also um, there's a problem. Just because you file a case doesn't, for me, just because you file a case doesn't mean anything other than you filed a case that you think has probable cause. Because at the end of the day, most cases, the vast majority of cases are either deferred or dismissed, or there's some sort of plea, and
Right.
that's the
And I think
vast
I want to
majority.
stop you. Yeah, I want to stop you right there, because a lot of people don't know that. When I first got into the criminal justice system as a teenager, on the wrong side, I might add. I've talked about this before. I was an absolute screw up. I was absolutely on my way towards being another statistic. But one thing that I discovered, kind of when I got thrown into it, was the sheer volume of cases that are out there, the sheer number of people. If you go, just take a few days and go watch some of these proceedings, right? Go to the courtroom and watch how many people on a daily basis go up in front of the judge. Just boom, 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 all day, all week. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people go in front of the judge for various things. And like you said, the majority of these cases end up getting pled out, dismissed, reduced, whatever. The vast majority, which means only a tiny percentage of what's actually filed, ends up going to trial. Like less than 1%, isn't it? That actually end up going to a full trial, right?
Yeah, I think there's at any given time there's like 10,000 pending cases in LaPorte County, and there's between year to
10,000.
year. Yeah, there's people forget, you may have 5,000 cases, 5,200 new cases filed per year, but there's also the other cases that are still going
Yeah.
on. So
The
and
previous
and
year's
for
cases.
and that number, the number of overall cases keeps going up,
Right.
and it's something like 11,000 now. So that's a lot. I mean, so that's because the more cases you file, but you don't dispose of the other ones, new work, great, but you still
Yep.
got your old work that you still have to deal with. So that piles up, and that, like we were talking, that most of that is, and you can go. There are all these stats that you can do, where it's like how many criminal misdemeanors, how many level 6 felonies, level 5, level 4, level 3, level 2. So, and then you can see how many are dismissed or a guilty plea or just some manner of being dealt with. And like I said, most of those cases are plea agreements or dismissed or deferral. And so, where if you have a deferral, like, keep your nose clean for this amount of time, do all these things, and then you're good. But one of the things that that keeps people in the system is probation. So with any plea agreement, probation is part of the deal, and the standards for probation violation are different than a normal with just a full-blown criminal trial where reasonable doubt on sentencing and all that versus probation violation is just clear not I forget it. It's 50%, 51%. I forget the preponderance of the evidence. So he's like, yeah, you did it. Now that you're going to go to jail. And so that just monitoring and keeping all these things going, the more people you have in a system strains the system. And the more work and if people are leaving because of low pay or whatever, that's more work on your people, and the more work on the less you have, like at community corrections. The prior director annoyed a bunch of people, and they weren't getting paid well, so they voted with their feet and they left. And that created more workloads for the other people. Same way with Michigan City. They've traditionally had 100. They're budgeted for 85. They have like 70, 75. Believe me, I talk to these guys, these men and women in Michigan City and all these other police. They are strained with the amount of work that they have to do. New cases, the amount of investigation that they have to do, just the amount of paperwork. They are burdened by the rising crime and the less number of people. So you can always manage with less people. You can create efficiencies to do better. But if you increase their workload while reducing people that by a lot, then you strain them even more. And that's, one of the things that people, I think, just don't realize, it's why are police leaving Porte County? I think it has money. Money is real. Money talks.
Yeah.
But it's also the workload. I think the higher number of cases being brought, plus, why do you have higher numbers of cases being brought? Because there's an actual rise in crime.
Right.
One that's one of the that's like the that's one of the steps. The first step. You have to admit there's a problem, and it's not just it's not just that you're not paying people enough. It's that 2020, with the defund the police talk, it really had an impact here. You didn't see all you didn't see all the riots like they had in other places. Former Chief Campbell, great man, walked with the people and helped prevent, back in 2020, some issues happening in Michigan City. He had a real impact.
Absolutely. Made national news.
But it's still that kind of overall mentality. There are a lot of police who would rather just do their job, go home at the end of the day, because they truly hate the politics of this county.
Right.
And you're seeing it within all these races, and mine especially, the Grammarosa Matias thing, commissioner's race. It's all getting vitriolic and just angry, and people, they don't want to deal with it, so they'll just go to Porter, and if they or Porter County, because they had their act together. Lake County, I mean, no one. You don't have a lot of people rushing to go work at Gary, but St. John, Crown Point, Winfield, Cedar Lake, all these other communities, maybe Hammond, maybe Maryville, Hobart, every place, Chesterton, every
Yeah,
place
there are
else.
plenty of other places that these people can go to make more money, get better benefits, and leave work at work. Unfortunately, there's so much politics here. There are those that are in power that say if you don't like me, I'm going to make your life a living hell. If you don't put my sign up, if you don't wear my shirt, if you don't support me publicly, then your job is at risk, your career is at risk, and that has to end. That has to end. We're
And
out of time. I just want to give you like a couple of minutes to tell people why. I'm hungry, man. My food's here. Give people just a quick summary of why they should vote for you. Some people have reached out to me and asked, I really want to vote for this guy, but I don't know that much about him. Why should they vote for Sean Fagan?
well, how long do I have? No, the truth of the reality is crime is up in Michigan City and in our county. Some people don't want to admit it, and they use statistics to justify their position. Why? Because if you're a prosecutor and you say that crime is up under your watch, people will blame you
Mm-hmm.
because you're crime goes up, they blame you. Crime goes down, they praise you. But either way, the people, the voters, with how they view crime is at your feet. And so the one thing that we have to admit, like any person going through recovery, you have to admit there's a problem. That problem, crime is up. People forget that 2020 had a real impact on our county, had a real impact on crime and our psyche. We're still feeling the effects of that today. Less police, more crime. And so as a prosecutor, I have a unique background, MBA, MDiv. I have the law degree. So I know how to interpret data. I know how to work with people. I know the law. And I'm not as fancy, or I didn't go to a fancy school like my opponent, but I know what's going on. I keep my ear to the ground. I have good relationships with people. They talk to me. And the most important thing, I am the consummate outsider.
Mm-hmm.
By not being involved in the county rigmarole within the system, if you want to change the system, you need an outsider to do it, not someone who will benefit from or has, benefit from the system having the status quo. The status quo has given us more crime. Crime is
Right.
up, and we're not dealing with it because that status quo, the small town, big government politics of this county is not working. And if it's not working, you need to change. You need to change the system. It doesn't have to be big change. It could be small things. Small changes impact a lot of stuff. And
Right.
so you need that willingness to try. You don't, a lot of people within the 12 steps, they fail, but they keep
Mm-hmm.
doing it. But at least they try. If you want solutions, you have to try new things. You have to work the steps. You have to say, okay, what's my problem? Higher crime. Okay, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to have to focus on this, 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 this. And at least one of us is saying, okay, crime is high. We need a solution. What we've been doing, the same old thing, is not working. And I'm not just saying this because I want to get elected. If I win, that's great. If I lose, that's great too. I'd rather win than lose. But
Of course.
yeah, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't want to win. But
Right.
you have to. The first step is always the hardest, and the truth is always scary. And creating solutions to face that truth is always hard, and it's always scary. You need someone who has the backbone and the temerity to actually do it. If the only promise I've ever made is that I'm going to lower crime, I would never have said that if I couldn't accomplish it. I've asked a bunch of prosecutors across the state, hey, am I out of line for thinking that I'm saying or that I could promise I will reduce crime? The majority said, no, you're not crazy because you have a real impact. And if the prosecutor, the incumbent, or anyone who's running against him or her from years past in the future, if that person can't say, I have a vision, we have a problem, I can fix it, and we're going to do it because people want solutions. People want results.
Right.
No one cares if you filed a bunch of cases. They care about gunshots. They care about being shot at Washington Park. In one of our biggest tourist areas, people are getting shot at.
Right.
No one wants
Right.
to go to a place where they're getting shot at.
Yeah. We
At
had
night.
just a few months ago, we had somebody shot on the beach on Washington Park, the Washington Park beach. A group of teenagers was out there. Kid came running up, shot somebody that was with the group. Michigan City Beach is the biggest tourist attraction out there. It's
the
what
casino.
generates massive amounts of revenue for our city. Unfortunately, this is what we're seeing. Washington Park, the beach itself, the little parking area off of it, Fetter's Alley. These have all become home to criminal elements. We have to we got to tackle this head on, and I think a change is in order. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to stop. Like I said, I'm starving. Yeah. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank Sean for taking the time out of his busy schedule to be here. Reach out to him. Send him a message on Facebook. Give him an opportunity to answer why he should, go ahead. Is something you want to add at the end?
Sean Fagan for Prosecutor. Search it on Facebook, or you can email me, Fagan for Prosecutor 2022 at gmail.com. Again, you'll see it at the bottom. Sean Fagan for Prosecutor on Facebook. Fagan for Prosecutor, all one word, 2022, all one thing, at gmail.com.
There you go. Thanks, Sean. We appreciate you taking the time out of your evening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Sean Fagan. Reach out to him. Talk to him. Look, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We have seen a consistent rise. We have seen a consistent disillusionment with the current state of the office. Let me make something clear. I don't know the incumbents at all. I've never, other than interacting with them in public events. Once I ran for office, I don't know anything about them. Never been to their house. Never, any of that. Same with Sean. I met him running for office. But I will say this. I have seen the results of the policies. I have seen the results that Michigan City, that LaPorte County feels. And anecdotally, I've talked to a bunch of people who are very unhappy with the current state. The only way we can change that is by doing something different, by voting for someone else. Look, I'll be the first to admit there are things that I've asked both people running for office, and I didn't get an answer that I loved from either one of them. That's just the reality. It may have happened to you. You may have reached out and said, hey, what are you going to do about this? Because there's a particular thing that matters most to you. And this person said, I don't really know about that. And maybe they, don't have the information you're looking for. All we can do is hope that the majority of things line up with our beliefs. There are people that, not this office, but there are people that have run for office, and I've reached out to them and I've said, hey, this is what matters to me. Where do you stand on that? And they've given me an answer that just sucked. It was terrible. And I said, well, I don't really like either of them, right? I'm going to give a protest vote, and write in Mickey Mouse, which, by the way, I'm going to tell you, just completely off subject here. If you go into the voting booth and you write someone who is not officially a write-in candidate, it doesn't count. You cannot get Mickey Mouse elected because Mickey Mouse is not an official write-in candidate. I just thought I'd drop that piece of incredibly important knowledge for you. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for joining me. I really hope that Rumble worked. I tried to make it stream to Rumble. Let's check it out. It looks like it did. I was kind of checking on it periodically. I've had some issues with trying to get the live stream to go to Rumbles, but it looks like, let's see here. I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna close it really quick if it starts messing stuff up, but I'm gonna try to pop in here. Yeah, it looks like it's working. It looks like there's one person watching right now on Rumble, so it looks like I got it working. I'm really proud of that. Trying to get, yeah, okay, pause it and get out. All right, excellent, yay. So again, I'm really excited about that because I've been fighting with Rumble for a while. I'm paying the fee in order to be able to stream to Rumble. But one thing that I found out, and I don't know if you care or not, but one thing that I found out is that you can only set it up like 24 hours in advance. No more than that for the live stream. So hopefully they'll change that. I'm going to reach out to them, but I'm going to go eat. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for spending your time talking to me and the guests that I have on. Election day is coming up, 2 weeks. I just put my little graphic here that my graphic designer made for me because I don't do a very good job with it. There we go. There it is. I'll share the screen and throw this up, and then I'm going to go eat my food. I know I'm kind of slow. Sorry. There we go. 2 more weeks. Get your butt out to the polls. Do not sit idly by in this election, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care what you think as far as the fraud, as far as my vote doesn't count, as far as any of that stuff. It doesn't matter. Get your butt out there, get your vote in, and let's vote for change up and down the ballot. There are some people that do deserve to be kept in office. There are some people that have done a good job. I'm going to cover that in my voter summary and recommendation coming up here soon. But most of the people on the ballot, I think we could do better. I think we could do better, certain positions in particular. So as always, ladies and gentlemen, God bless you. God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States.